throughout your build, you're going to make mistakes. Sometimes I make really stupid mistakes, and I'm going to share every single one just in case it helps somebody else. And when I was aligning, if you watch my earlier video, when I was aligning the elevator, which is upside down right now, to the horizontal stabilizer, this is the top side of it. When I was aligning them, I said that I checked the back side of this, and the holes had plenty of distance from the edge, and it was, but I didn't check the elevator, which the elevator has just maybe 2 degrees more angle on this back side. Look at where the holes broke out. We're talking very near that edge. And of course on the top side it looks fine. It looks like there's plenty of material there. So I'll show you what I'm going to do to repair this. And here's another thing. If you're questioning whether or not to repair something, picture yourself 1,500 feet in the air and what might happen. Could you picture your elevator coming loose, or maybe worse, coming loose on just one side? If it fell off completely, you could at least lean forward and pitch for the ground. But anyways, I'll show you how I'm gonna repair this. I cut myself some banding here, and you can see a nice grain pattern on it, and the grain's going this way, and I'm going to scab them onto the back of this, but not the entire length. This here is plenty strong enough. I don't need the strength. What I need is the material right here. And gluing something on here is actually going to make it stronger than if it was just plain wood. So I'm probably going to come 1 inch beyond it right here. The reason I have these bolts in here is because this is angled that direction. Since that's cut at an angle, when you clamp across it, it's going to want to slide up. So I'll just leave these bolts here, and you can see how much distance that's hanging over. But I'm going to leave that on there, clamp across there, glue it all up with T88, and go about 1 inch beyond the gusset covers. In preparation, I sanded all the surfaces, made sure there weren't any gouges or anything or little lines from whenever I cleaned off the dripping T88. And then on these, I took and sanded, make sure that I opened the grain for one, and the other thing is get rid of any saw. So I've got a really clean cutting table saw, but just to be sure, I smoothed them out, and I blew the dust off real well so there's no dust on either surface or around it. So I'm ready to mix up glue and clamp them on there. And as you can see, even though I'm using very small mounts, proportions, I'm keeping this very even. And all I do is that method that, well, on Facebook he's Richie E-Flux, but the one he showed us, and that's just 1, 2, 3, and do the exact same thing with about the same size of a bead from the hardener, part B. And it runs a little thicker, a little slower, but 1, 2, 3. That's all I do. And I've even done real small little pots, and well, you saw how even it's coming out. So you want to check that from time to time, make sure that your glue is going down evenly because it's a 50-50 mix. Well, I lost my stir stick, so I've got to hurry up and make a new one. And this is all I do is, let's do the crossways first, get it more square. Okay, and I always like a little flat on the tip of it there. A little more angle. Yeah, maybe not quite that. Right in there. Okay, now I'll just take and, well, I've actually used this to make a thin blade out of it. And I've got to hurry because I got that glue poured and I don't, but I'll just go and stir it real quick with this. And just get about a 30-second stir until it turns to this mother of pearl looking stuff. And it sticks to itself so well. You can just go around the edges like this. And it's like bread dough. It kind of holds to itself. It ain't going to go anywhere. It'll pick itself up and bring it back in. And once again, you do both surfaces. You'll put glue on both surfaces. And I didn't get my stir stick perfect, but usually it works. If I trim it up real good, this works real good like a squeegee. And just spread the glue out. And you don't need thick glue. You want to spread it out real thin, but you want to get it on both sides. Both pieces of material. Thought I had it in the view of the camera. I didn't. Just squeegee it out fairly thin, and you'll still squeeze glue out. And I probably should have put gloves on, but I forgot to. Alright, so we got both sides glued up, spread out good, and now we'll just grab some clamps here and I'm just going to eyeball this on there. I'm going to measure, and I'm putting it up even with the covering here, because on the top side of the elevator it has plenty of meat. Now, I'm not worried about that, so I'm just getting the back side here is, and then once this is done, once this is glued up and dried, I'm going to take and sand it, because we're still going to need some clearance right in here, because we haven't changed how wide apart this is or anything. All we've done is added some meat on this here lower side, and we had plenty of angle. 28 degrees is way more than enough. 26 is optimal. I thought I was going to end up with 24, but so this here will be fine, but I'm going to have to sand an angle on it. And these big clamps are kind of sitting at an angle, but they're holding just fine. And more clamping. This glue isn't extremely expensive, but those bottles I show you, that's $48, and then shipping, depending on what they charge you, you're going close to $60. Alright, so since I'm done and I've still got glue, what I'll do now is, like I said, I haven't capped many of these gussets with T88, which is what I like to cover the tops of them. It soaks into the top surface and gives them extra strength. So I'll just use the remaining. Oh, that's way too much because I barely put any on. Put the rest of it on the other ones, but yeah, this here will spread out. Get out of my light. This here will cover the entire thing and cover it plenty well. And it'll sink in there. I like to cover the entire cover and then right between them. And the Eco Bond for the fabric glue, sticks to this very well. It sticks to almost everything very well. So now I do this same thing even if I'm using regular plywood. I cap the top of it. I've worked on a lot of very old aircraft, and well, 30 some years old, and they're still flying good, but the plywood, even if you don't have to use military grade, mil spec or aircraft grade plywood on these FP series, but even if you do, which many people do, it after 30 some years, if it's not sealed well, it's going to start separating. So I've noticed whenever they were covered with T88 or sealed extremely well with a lacquer or polyurethane or something like that, they lasted, and naturally they would, because what makes them separate is the continuous moisture, more and less moisture over the seasons. So there you have it, my first stupid mistake. I've made quite a few so far, but they were simple little and not really stupid. Just this one is stupid, and because I didn't check my first hole on the elevator first. But anyways, one thing I don't take a tremendous amount of time blending these and polishing them up. You will see every little nick and gouge or any little dimple, the slightest little dimple, you'll see it in your fabric. Even though I use pretty heavy fabric, 2.9 ounce, you'll still see that through the fabric. If you want like a pristine plane, then you want to take a little more time than what I do in sanding them and getting them perfect. Me, it's just a high lift, high drag airplane that's it's not gonna make that any difference in its aerodynamics. So I get it pretty darn close, and that's pretty smooth. That's it. And one more thing is the end grain is where you're going to absorb most of the moisture. So I always like to seal the end grains very well right here. And of course, when you cap something all around the edge of the cap, that's all end grain, like from your plywood.